If you've spent your career as a physician, physician assistant, nurse practitioner, or any other medical professional, you've earned a high income for a long time. You've built a lifestyle around it, maybe a really good one. And the question that keeps you up at night isn't whether you can retire, it's whether you can retire and still live the life you've built. Because dropping from a doctor's income to a fixed retirement budget is a real adjustment. And most medical professionals I work with don't want to take a step backward. They want to keep the house, keep the travel, keep the lifestyle they've earned. So today, I'm going to walk you through exactly what it takes to maintain your standard of living when you walk away from medicine. I'm Cade Bekanich, certified financial planner and founder of Park Lane Financial Group. I work with a lot of medical professionals, and this is the single most common conversation I have with them when they get within a few years of retiring. There are 5 things you need to be sure of before you stop working. 5 questions you have to answer with real numbers, not estimates and not feelings. What do I spend now? What will I need to spend in retirement? What new expenses will hit me that I don't have today? How are my assets allocated, and where is my income actually coming from? And how do I know at what age I can actually retire? Get those 5 things right and you walk into retirement with confidence. Get them wrong and you spend the first few years either anxious or quietly cutting back in ways you really didn't want to. Quick note, this is educational content and not personalized tax, legal, or investment advice. Always work through your own situation with a professional who knows your full picture. All figures referenced are for tax year 2026, and it's important that you do talk with a professional about your situation. So let's get started. Everything starts here, and almost no one does this properly. If you can't tell me what you spend in a year today, you cannot tell me what you'll need in retirement. The math is impossible to do, and you're guessing. And here's the thing I find myself with medical professionals specifically. Most of you have never had to budget. You've made more than you spent for so long that you just operate on autopilot. The paycheck comes in, the bills get paid, there's money left over, life is good. But when you retire, the paycheck actually stops. And now you need to know, what does my life cost? Here's the simplest exercise. Pull 12 months of bank and credit card statements. Add it up. That's your starting number. Then break it into categories: housing, transportation, food, travel, insurance, entertainment, kids, all of it. Charitable giving, whatever fits your life. Most medical professionals I do this with discover they spend somewhere between 15 and 40% more than they thought. Not because they're bad with money, just because they've never had to track it. Once you know that real number, everything else in your retirement plan can be built on solid ground instead of guesses. Step number 2 is, what will I need to spend in retirement? Now we get to the second question, and this is where most retirement content gets it wrong for high earners. The generic advice you hear is that you only need to replace 70 to 80% of your working income in retirement, and that works fine for someone making $75,000 a year. It does not work the same way for a physician making $300,000. Why? Because that 70 to 80% rule assumes a lot of your working income was going to things that disappear in retirement. Payroll taxes, retirement savings, commuting, work clothing, maybe a mortgage that'll be paid off. For some medical professionals, that's true. The percentage drops naturally. But here's what I see far more often. The expenses that don't disappear, the travel, the house, the kids, the lifestyle, those stay roughly the same, and sometimes they actually go up because you have more free time to spend on them. So the better question isn't, what percentage of my income do I need? It's, what will my actual lifestyle cost in retirement? Take your current annual spending number from Creston One, then go categorize it by each different category and make adjustments. Will the mortgage still be there? If you pay it off before retiring, subtract it. If not, keep it in. What about education? Will the kids still be in college or graduate school? Add or subtract based on timing. And travel? Honestly, most people's do go up in retirement. And finally, if you have to pay $15,000 or $20,000 in extra expenses, be realistic. Work-related expenses do generally drop, but non-discretionary expenses typically go up because you have more free time to spend money. So this isn't about a percentage of income, it's an actual dollar amount tied to the life you want to live. Section 3, new expenses you don't have today. This is the section most people miss completely, and it's the section that wrecks retirement plans. When you stop working, certain new expenses show up that you simply did not have before, or that your employer was quietly covering for you and you didn't really think of. If you don't have a plan for them, your real spending in retirement is going to be much higher than the number you wrote down. Number 1, health insurance. If you retired before 65 years old, which is a lot of medical professionals, Medicare isn't available yet. You have to buy coverage on the ACA marketplace through Cobra or through a spouse's employer plan. So of course that depends on whether or not you're married and whether or not your spouse's employer offers that coverage. A married couple in their early 60s on the marketplace can easily spend $15,000 $15,000, $20,000, even $25,000 a year on premiums alone. And as of 2026, the enhanced subsidies that lower these costs during the pandemic have expired. Even once Medicaid kicks in at 65, you're still paying Part B premiums, possibly IRMA subcharges if your income is high, plus a Medigap or Medicare Advantage plan, plus Part D for prescriptions. Realistic Medicare costs often a couple $1,000s per year, so it's not an expense you want to just let fly by. Number two are taxes that you used to have withheld. When you were working, federal, state, and Social Security tax was withheld from your paycheck automatically. You probably never even thought about it. In retirement, you have to handle that yourself. Estimated quarterly payments, withholding from IRA withdrawals, paying tax on Social Security if it's in a taxable territory. If your withdrawal strategy is sloppy, you can owe penalties just for underpaying. Your tax bill does not disappear when you retire. If anything, it becomes more relevant. It just becomes your responsibility to manage it actively. Number three, day-to-day expenses you didn't even see coming. Things you didn't notice when you were busy working show up in retirement. You're home more, your utility bills go up. You eat out for lunch with friends instead of grabbing something at the hospital. You start traveling more, so the cost of running an empty house and a car at the airport becomes a real line item. House maintenance is another one. Roofs, HVAC, appliances, cars, they all need replacing eventually. And a 30-year retirement means most of these will need to happen at least once, sometimes twice during that retirement plan. A reasonable planning rule is to budget 1 to 2% of your home's value annually for maintenance and big ticket replacements. That number surprises a lot of people. Number four is long-term care planning. This is the one that nobody wants to talk about, and the reality is a significant percentage of Americans will need some form of long-term care in their lifetime. And it's expensive. We're talking $6,000, $7,000, sometimes $10,000 a month for assisted living or memory care, depending on where you live. You need a plan for this, either long-term care insurance or self-insuring with a dedicated portion of your portfolio, or a hybrid product. Some combination, but please do not ignore it because it can be extremely expensive and deplete the value of your estate. Section 4, how are my assets actually allocated and where is my income coming from during retirement? Now we get to the portfolio side. Most medical professionals I work with have done a decent job saving. The 401k is funded, there's a brokerage account, maybe a Roth IRA, maybe a 403b from a previous hospital, and maybe a deferred compensation plan from a private practice. But here's the question almost nobody can answer clearly. When you stop working, where does the money come from each month to replace your paycheck? And in what order do you pull from each of these accounts? Because this matters enormously. Pulling from the wrong account first can cost you tens of thousands of dollars in extra taxes over retirement. A coordinated income plan starts with knowing what each of your accounts actually does. Your pre-tax accounts, the 401k, traditional IRA, and 403b haven't even been taxed yet, so every dollar you withdraw is taxed at ordinary income rates. Required minimum distributions eventually force withdrawals whether you need the money or not. Your Roth accounts, on the other hand, have already been taxed. Qualified withdrawals come out completely tax-free, so there are no required minimum distributions on Roth during your lifetime. This is your most valuable tax shelter. Your taxable brokerage account is the most nuanced. Long-term capital gains get preferential tax treatment, dividends and interest get taxed annually. But you have control over when you sell. A good retirement income plan coordinates withdrawals across all three buckets, so you're paying the lowest reasonable tax across your entire retirement. Not just this year. And just as important, what's inside each account matters. Your highest growth investments generally belong in your Roth where they grow tax-free. Your bonds and heavy income investments generally belong in your pre-tax accounts where they don't generate annual tax until the money is taken out. Your taxable brokerage is best for tax advantage, broad market holdings, and that's called asset location. It's different from asset allocation, and it can quietly add real money to your retirement plan over time because the final result is a 30-year retirement trying to save as much money in taxes as possible. And beyond the portfolio, you have to know where your Social Security fits in. When you claim, how much you'll get, how much of it will be taxable based on your other income, put all of it together. Portfolio withdrawals, Social Securities, pensions if you have one, and any other income. And you have an actual income plan, not just a guess. This is about strategy. Next is, how do I know what age I can actually retire? This is the question that every medical professional asks me at some point in our plan. And it's also the question with most uncertainty around it, simply because the answer depends on the four questions beforehand. You can't answer when can I retire without first answering how much do I need to spend, how much will I need to spend, what new expenses will appear, and where is the income coming from. Once you have those four, the math becomes possible. Here's the rough framework. Take your retirement spending number, add the new expenses you projected, subtract your Social Security and pension income. The remainder has to come from your portfolio, meaning most retirement planning research suggests that a sustainable withdrawal rate from a balanced portfolio is somewhere in the 3 to 3.5 or possibly even 4% range of your entire account value. And of course, this has to be adjusted for inflation. That's a general framework, not a guarantee. So if your portfolio needs to produce $80,000 a year, you generally need a portfolio somewhere in the range of $1.8 to $2.3 million at retirement. If it needs to produce $150,000 a year, the portfolio needs to be closer to $3.5 to $4 million. These are general ranges. They do depend on your specific situation, your asset mix, your other income sources, and the length of your actual retirement. But they give you a starting point. And here's the thing about retiring for medicine specifically. You have options most professionals don't. You can drop to part-time, you can do per diem work, you can transition gradually instead of just stopping cold turkey. A lot of medical professionals find that the right answer isn't retire at 60 or retire at 65. It's slow down working at around 62, fully retire at 67, maybe something different for you. But that flexibility can change dramatically and can change what age you actually need to be financially independent to fully retire. Now let's put it all together. Maintaining your standard of living in retirement, the lifestyle you earn through 20 or 30 years of practicing medicine is absolutely possible. But it requires real planning, not vibes, not generic rules of thumb. It requires knowing what you spend now, projecting what you'll spend in retirement, anticipating the new expenses that will hit you, understanding where each of your accounts will be and what they should own, and running real math on what age actually makes sense. Most medical professionals I work with are nervous about retirement, but when we do this work, they walk out far more confident than they walked in. But because they finally understand the picture, all of this becomes possible. And once you start to understand it, you stop being scared of the transition. You start planning. If you're a medical professional thinking about retirement, whether that's 10 years away or 2, this is the kind of work we do every single day at Park Lane. Real numbers, real plans, real answers. Reach out if you want a second set of eyes on your specific situation. We'd be glad to help. Thanks for watching. I'm Cade Bekanich with Park Lane Financial Group. Take care.